this subject we're talking about now, like these primal motivations and these individualistic motivations, makes me wonder, like, is he really this messiah, or is he just trying? Is he just trying to get pussy? I told you about the documentary I've been watching, the latest one called "Can't Get You Out of My Head," which is wild. And it's a great history lesson for someone like me who's an idiot, doesn't know anything about history. Oh,
is this the Mao one?
Yeah, it's about Mao and Jiang. I want to say it's like Jiang Qing.
What's the name of the doc again?
It's called "Can't Get You Out of My Head." I think her name is Jiang Qing.
Okay.
It's basically it's Mao's wife, and basically the whole documentary. It's a 6-part series, and it shows.
Who was Mao again? Who was the China guy?
Mao Zedong. He was the
China.
Yeah, China. He was the fucking whatever, the president of China. Yeah. And it talks about the whole history of China and his wife Jiang Qing, where she came from, how she came to be, and it kind of like shows the connections between individualism, capitalism, nationalism, and like the rise of conspiracy theories and how the purpose of the original conspiracy theories that were created. It talks about like how the whole Illuminati conspiracy theory was created.
Can you explain that? At least what you've seen?
Which part?
The general 30,000. Sorry, I choked on my thing. 30,000 foot in the air view of like because I always joke about the Illuminati. I've never done a deep dive on that.
I don't remember. I mean, the Illuminati part was just they kind of glossed over the whole Illuminati part, but basically the Illuminati was just a way to discredit a lot of things that were happening in like the ruling class, or like just to like for the lower class citizens to sort of. Like it talks a lot about conspiracy theories, how like the connection between conspiracies and conspiracy theories. The problem is there's tons of conspiracies. There are tons of real conspiracies. But the problem with conspiracy theories is that there's no limit on conspiracy theories. Like there could be so many conspiracy theories and they're the same thing as the conspiracies, because you don't know if the conspiracies are real and you don't know if the conspiracy theories are real. And it shows just the evolution of that and like the human mind and how it's evolved from Mao, or even before Mao, from like early China to now. And it shows what's going on in each empire. And it shows like the rise of imperialism and the American empire and the banks in the 90s. And it just basically shows what's going on in each of the big empires in certain times throughout history. It goes back and it shows all the failed revolutions, and it even shows like Tupac's mom.
Yeah, Fanny. I know a lot about this.
Fanny. Do you really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just gonna like regurgitate what I can remember.
You look over. I'm the biggest Tupac head of all time. Look behind the thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it shows her, and it shows like how they basically got set up and went to court, and how she represented herself in court, and
all in this Mao doc.
All in this Mao doc, bro. It covers everything. It's so hard to follow.
She was a Panther. She was like,
yeah.
She was in the middle of all that.
And there was a CIA agent in their group. Mm-hmm. Like a provocateur who was trying to set things up. There was nobody really doing anything. Like there was a government CIA, or I don't know if it was CIA or FBI, but there was some sort of insider, a provocateur in their organization trying to set shit up, set up these shootings in these shopping malls and stuff like that. And then when they went to court, she points that out. She's like, look, you were the one who conspired, who created this plan, not us. And she got him off, which was crazy. I mean, it just shows so many parallels, and it shows like, just like so many times throughout history where there's all these coincidences. And it's, again, I only retained 20% of the whole fucking documentary so far. I have to go watch it 3 more times to actually really grasp what happened.
It sounds like a lot of important themes.
It's really good. There's a lot of intertwined narratives in that documentary, and I'm only on episode 4, so.
Well, think about the symbolism on it. Like the term conspiracy, obviously it's been around, but the idea of conspiracy theory was vastly spread far and wide at the behest of the CIA. Not accusing anything here, wink, wink, after the JFK thing.
Right. Oh yeah, he's in the
Huge
documentary.
wink, wink. Of course he is, right? So they wanted to create a term that was a dismissal, right? So when I say conspiracy theory, under the same cloak, you can put people who believe in flat Earth and people who believe that something fishy happened with JFK. These two things are in no way equal. One is filled with a bunch of morons. The other one is filled with sincere evidence. Even if people don't know the exact thing, which I think we actually can point to at least some of the exact things there. But either way, let's pretend we couldn't. We know some fucked up shit happened. There's no such thing as a magic bullet. That's bullshit, right? Like we know there was some sort of forces at play, and a sitting U.S. president was murdered. But those people can be dismissed with one term immediately.
Right.
Same way, by the way, that anytime I would see this in like 2017, 2018, 2019 as Trump's presidency was going on. Anytime someone disagreed with like a mainstream like anti-Trump narrative, they were a Trumper. Oh, that's a Trump supporter.
Yeah.
Right? Like they would just tag someone that
Ultra
way.
MAGA.
Yes.
Ultra MAGA.
And now you've seen it start the other way too. Like someone's like, oh, that's a leftist. Anytime they say something that's like, or a libtard or something, anytime they say something that's like against the rightward narrative. Because over time we see reactions have reactions, man. Like, what do you expect? Like, that's what people do.
Right.
And so now we have a situation where politically we're like that, but then even on conspiracies, I mean, people have access to more information, good, bad, and indifferent, than ever before online. And people will form narratives. And so I try to look at, like, in studying, like, how regimes over time, this is why this documentary is so interesting to me. It's like, how have regimes utilized that doubt, right? Like that little seed of doubt to say like, nah, it didn't happen. Or like what you saw, not real. To be able to grasp power and get people, like start with one lie and then people believe all the lies.
Yeah.
Scary.
It is. No, actually in the documentary they show all this archival footage. That's what this guy Adam Curtis, he's like a BBC filmmaker, documentarian.
Oh, it's a BBC doc.
It's produced by the BBC.
Wow.
But what he does is he uses this archived footage and he pieces together these documentaries with just like weird artsy B-roll, archived footage, and dope music. And he basically narrates it and strings it all together with his voiceovers. And he like writes a script that he does a voiceover for and tells the story. And it's pretty good.
Are there a bunch of episodes of this, or like what's the?
This specific documentary has 6 episodes. Yeah, they're all on YouTube, by the way. You can watch them all for free.
Wow, they like an hour a piece.
Yeah,
type deal?
about an hour a piece. Yeah, and
This sounds great.
there's tons of footage of Lee Harvey Oswald's best friend.
Who was his best friend?
Another guy that he met in the military. I forget the guy's name, but the guy basically created this whole conspiracy about Lee Harvey Oswald being like pro-communist and all this stuff, and there was a conspiracy theory that he was putting forward that he was publishing called Operation Mindfuck.
The friend.
Yeah, Lee Harvey's friend. Have you ever heard of Operation Mindfuck?
Never.
Yeah, so
I can't believe that's real.
They published it. Yeah,
Back then.
back then. Yeah, and apparently it ended up being something that he was tricked into publishing by the CIA. Dude, I'm telling you, this fucking thing goes deep.
Well, you know, one time we got to like corner Bustamante somewhere wearing like dark clothes with sunglasses on in a dark room with a candle and say, you can't leave until you tell us. The cameras are on. It's live
We should
stream.
definitely do that.
Yeah.
He would know it's us, though.
We should tell him that there's some enhanced interrogation techniques out back. We have
Waterboarding.
Jim DiOrio back there waiting for him. The things
funny as
like,
shit.
do you think that happens like at the CIA? Like you have like a orientation, but then a real orientation. Like here's all the shit we did.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, how many people work for the CIA? I mean,
was
how many
thinking
people do you
about
think?
that. I don't know. I haven't Googled that yet.
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot. There's got to be a ton of pencil pushers, right? That work in the like the main office.
There's no way we know the real number.
I think that's what Kiriaki started doing. Was he was like a pencil pusher at first, research analysis type guy.
Andy says that, but Andy's like I don't know if you talked to him about that. He's like very adamant about that, though. He doesn't like that term because he wasn't that, by the way. He obviously he was undercover.
Yeah.
But he's like, you have to understand, like, that's not really a thing. Like the people who are sitting in Langley, even like literally at the main office, like they're doing wild shit. It's not just like the secrets that they're exposed to every day that they have to build on top of is absurdly high. Mm-hmm. So he was like, we're all spies.
Yeah.
He's like, let's get that straight. It's not just me doing undercover. So I think that's a little different because you could definitely, like about the FBI and stuff, I mean, talk to Jim, like there's a lot of pencil pushers, a lot of people doing no shit, right? But at the CIA, it's like their goal is totally different. They don't give a shit about arrests. You know, unless, someone like Abu Zubaydah, they want to have him here forever to talk to him whenever they want for their own means. But like, they want sources. They want people who can give them information, can give them an idea of what's going on, and they're willing to have trade-offs for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the moral question.
Yeah, I have no idea what the initiation process would be like, but I know they would never let me. I know I would never make the cut.
No, they would never talk to me.
No, absolutely not.
I'm the guy with the dark Google searches. I'm out right away.
Yeah,
so like at 13, this kid was Googling Al Qaeda. Come on, no, we're out.
The thing you said about Putin purposely letting American dissidents into his country and to speak on their national radio station, it's super smart. Because there's no. Are there any? Are we doing that in any way? I'm trying to think.
Yes. Yeah. I can't name people, but we absolutely. Well, I would say like a guy like Navalny, and before him, Boris Nemtsov, like the key political opponent, was always raised profile here, which, by the way, I thought was great. That was very, very important because Nemtsov was murdered by Putin in Russia. So there's... Who is
Nemtsov?
Nemtsov was before Navalny. He was the head of the political opposition for years and years in Russia.
Okay.
So, and that's the thing. Like, they tried to discredit him left and right, and they tried to do the same thing with Navalny. I don't know as much about Navalny, just being honest. He
was a YouTuber.
Honestly,
he had a fucking amazing YouTube channel with millions of views. I mean, he posted every Friday.
I'm not educated on
He was the
Navalny.
Logan Paul of Russia.
Hilarious. But Nemtsov was like an old school guy. I know his history a little bit. But, like these guys are the political opposition, and Navalny's in jail over the prison over there, and Nemtsov was killed. And it's like, well, we raised their profile. Is that the same thing? Not necessarily, but like as a guy like, what was the name of the guy? Jack, the guy you had on?
Barsky?
Yeah. Vaguely the same thing. I think it's a little less significant than Snowden, right? But that's kind of the same thing.
But he spent very little time in Russia. I think he spent maybe a month or two in Russia.
But he was a spy here.
Right, he was a spy here.
But
he had virtually zero communication with the Russians. Like he was in Germany, got recruited in Germany.
But they trained
him in Germany.
Yeah.
Then they finally flew him to Russia for a couple months, and they sent him off to the U.S.
Still, like they trained him heavily. He was a KGB asset living in the U.S. I mean, those are golden children. Like they treat those, and that's why they were trying to get him out. Like he talked about that. They kept on putting the sign in the subway every day, like, get the fuck out. It's. I'm sure it's the same way that Andy describes the CIA. Like the CIA does not want to lose an asset. It's not even. They don't give a fuck about the person. It's the money, and the training, and the time.
Yeah.
Like, it's so impressive. By the way, great interview with that guy.
Oh, thank you.
Really, really good. But that dude...
I just shut up in the interview. It was great.
The things that they were able to get him comfortable to be able to do, like even like own some of the accent, but still be American. I forget what the cover story was. Like his mom or something, but he was raised somewhere else. And like, that's a hard thing to lie about. Like, it's such bullshit. And he was able to live no problem for... I guess like decades here.
Yeah, the crazy thing is how he moved here and he just basically left his wife and his firstborn child in Germany.
Yeah.
And like just walked away from that when he met some new lady and had a new kid here. Like I can't even fucking imagine doing something like that.
I think a lot of these guys are, I don't know how, I wasn't there, but I think they're trained in some ways, if it's even possible, to be somewhat desensitized towards that. However, like when, this is just my perspective, hearing him talk, I wasn't there, you were there, maybe you'd have a better feel. It felt like to me, to this day, there's a small piece of him that bothers him. Like it really, he's still a human. Like even after all that, there's still like a little bit of you that's a full human.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of that shit has to follow you, especially when you're a guy who's his age. He's probably been through so much shit. And then you really have no choice either. You're fucking KGB sent to the US. What are you going to do? You can't just ask them to come. I mean, you already ignored their call back to Russia. I mean, there's no going back now. You're going to be stuck. Yeah, it's weird.
Such a, the other thing is like, we say there's no rules in the agencies here, and to an extent that's right, but like there's really no rules in places that like aren't democracies or something. They do whatever the fuck they want. I mean, they may not like losing you, like I said, but if you step out of line and you're a threat, your whole family could be gone.
Yeah.
Which I don't say is impossible here, by the way.
No, it's not impossible here.
Not impossible.
I don't know. It's hard to have a real good perspective on the U.S. when you're living here. When we're sitting here in New Jersey in the podcast studio, it's really hard to know when we're watching all these documentaries about all these other fucking crazy corrupt empires. Not to know. I mean, we do know a little bit, but people like Oliver Stone just get called like anti-American conspiracy theorists.
Listen, I think I told you this. I call, and I don't even like using this term because I don't like the connotation, so I always like to qualify it. I think Oliver Stone is a necessary evil, right? He is so jaded from being in Vietnam and seeing the worst of the worst, right? And so he is definitely, I mean, the guy's like, Barack Obama's a war criminal, should be in prison. Like the guy's a little, he's overboard. But he is unafraid, like if Oliver Stone shines the light on something that happened and he makes it sound like World War V, but 10% of it has validity and people aren't talking about it, that's worth it to me.
Yeah.
Right? I'll be like, okay, Oliver, that part, all right. You didn't even support that, but okay, all right, I see, like, it's so, he'd be so interesting to talk to, but some people, they can't, they're like, oh, he hates America. Yeah, he doesn't have the best opinion, and people could say he got rich here and, fed off the system and he's hypocritical. But I think you have to understand, like, you haven't walked in his shoes. He has lived his whole life throughout his career, even when he was making money. He has stayed towards the same themes when it comes to that topic of like trying to be a check to what he views as some of the falsities of democracy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, there's things that spark when you're young that send you on this trajectory of life, like with him talking about being in Vietnam and seeing how he's been sent by this evil empire to fight this war, and that narrative has stuck in his head, and he's acted on it from a young kid, making movies, and he's built a giant name and a giant business off of it, and that's what he's good at doing it.
You got to have him in.
It's like just like on the documentary we were just talking about, Jiang Qing, the wife of Mao. She was acting in plays, and she was always second best to this girl who would always get the number one role, and she was always super jealous of this girl, super resentful of this girl. And that sent her on her trajectory to become what she became, leading the revolutions that she was trying to lead. And
she hated losing.
Yeah, she hated. She always felt like she was second fiddle to somebody, and she didn't like that. She wanted to be number one, and that's actually why she married Mao. They say that she played to Mao to get him to like her, and then she was climbing. It was power. It was all power that basically lured her to where she was eventually going and where she eventually ended up.
Have you heard the story of Xi Jinping's childhood?
No, I don't know anything about Xi Jinping.
He's the current leader of China. I really have to study him because I don't know nearly enough. But this always struck me. When he was a kid, I believe his father was in the Communist Party. Something went wrong. He did something wrong. He stepped out of line. Mm-hmm. He was disgraced and excommunicated from the party. That affected the whole family. So when Xi was 6 or 7 years old, for example, they made him, the Communist Party of China, made him stand in the middle of town, in like the town square, with a sign that said like something, it didn't say this, but it was like the equivalent of like, I'm a traitor, or like, fuck this, or whatever. And his mom had to walk by him, look at him, and say, shame on you, Xi Jinping. And I think she even had to spit on him. I'm not sure about that second part. But he lived with that shame. And then he was made fun of and bullied in school over it. And so as he grew up, he was hardened. And he's like, never again. I'm going to own all these motherfuckers. And so he's a very smart guy. He educated himself, came to America even, I think, and got some sort of education as well. And then rose up and said, I'm gonna own all this, and I'm gonna be the head of the Communist Party. And then when he did, he's got a power trip on it because he's like, he lives his whole life to get back at the people who told him he couldn't, and told him he was less than, told him he didn't belong. And now he takes that out on other people in the worst of ways, by the way, with absolute unchecked power.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that this documentary explores all of that, like the primal motivations for power and basically the desires of the individual, and how that ultimately leads to tyranny. It's crazy. It makes me think about Elon Musk a lot.
Why?
Because like everything Elon Musk does, like he's basically a god.
Musk.
I'm sorry. He's a god right now. Everyone loves him. He's all over Twitter. He's all over everything. He's like fucking space. He's gonna bring us to Mars. He's gonna buy Twitter and free the speech, and creating these amazing cars, these
what do you think of that whole
electric cars? It makes me think like this whole, like everything, this subject we're talking about now, like these primal motivations and these individualistic motivations, makes me wonder, like, is he really this messiah, or is he just trying to get pussy? Is he just trying to get clout?
What are you leaning towards?
I don't know. I've never really thought about it until recently. And I've just been thinking about it more and more and more and more and more. Is he just trying to is he love the attention? Does he love the clout? Does he have something that happened to him in childhood that makes him just have this tremendous desire for power and popularity? And I mean, he's what Donald Trump was 3 years ago, right? I mean, Donald Trump was the most popular, polarizing person in the world. He's becoming that, if he's not already.
In a different way. I want to
totally different way.
Yeah,
totally different
Elon
way.
Credit without going there, but
yeah, Elon gets more credit for sure. But Trump he's a product of his time, I think.
That's an interesting. Yeah, I mean,
is he a messiah, or is he just?
That's dangerous. You can't do that.
Is he?
You can't do that.
Is he? Well, I've talked about this 30 different times already. But on Westworld, I don't know if you've seen Westworld on HBO.
I know. I'm aware of it. I've never seen it.
Basically, Dr. Ford is talking to somebody I forget who it is, but in one of the episodes, he's talking to them, and he's basically, their goal is they're creating these humanoid type robots, trying to gather information on human beings. And after studying hundreds of thousands of human beings and analyzing all their decisions they make in this theme park full of robots, he basically says, human intellect is nothing more than peacock feathers. He goes, look at the Empire State Building. Look at Michelangelo, Mozart, the most amazing music, architecture, buildings, anything in the world. And all it is an elaborate mating call. And people might come up with another story to justify it. Like Elon might say he's trying to make us an interplanetary species, or he's trying to solve climate change, or he's trying to do
pussy.
Free speech. He's just doing it all for pussy. That's it.
Wow.
Interesting thought.
Wow. There's a lot there. But
maybe
you're getting to primal motives.
Yeah.
I mean, when in doubt, the complexity of the world comes back to that. Mm-hmm. What you just described, what I described a couple minutes ago, was Xi Jinping. Primal motive, power. Other people told me I couldn't. Fuck them. I'll tell them I can.
Power.
I'll get any bitch I want.
Yeah, power equals pussy.
That's it. Yeah, I don't know. Listen, I have him on the wall below Steve Jobs. It made a lot of sense, obviously, to do that when I designed the studio 2 years ago. And I got the smoking one right here on the
love
thing.
it.
And I'm a fan. But I also make damn sure to say this, and I hold myself to it. I'm not a fanboy. We have too much of that in society, in my opinion, where it's like we latch onto someone so much because we love everything that they can do no wrong. Like he's a human being. He's an imperfect guy. You know, do I believe Business Insider coming out with what appears to be another hack job report to take someone down? No. But, you know, if they come out with better evidence or something, maybe at some point I would. I don't know. But you have to hold people to what they say. Okay, Elon, you're buying Twitter because you care a lot about free speech and opening up the full political spectrum of people being able to speak, and if they say something stupid, they get checked in the public square. That theory, I agree with 1,000%. I am with you. I think we should be able to make, like, if all those people who were in Charlottesville in 2017 are tweeting whatever the fuck they want, I think we should be able to make fun of them. I think that's great.
Yeah.
They're morons, right?
Totally agree.
They're such a small percentage. Fuck those people. Like, that's hilarious. Like, what an idiot. You know what I mean? It's not funny when they do something violent, but like, how do you get rid of those people? You laugh at them. Because then kids see like, oh, they're getting laughed at. They're not taken seriously. There's no power to that.
Right.
You know, but if you shut it down, if you take it away, then some people, you know, their mind starts going and they start going, I wonder what that's like. I wonder why they're doing that. They must be threatened. Those guys must have power. So like now if Elon's coming in and that's the true motivation here, great. That's what he says. I'm going to hold him to that. You know, but if he's doing it, he's doing it to get pussy. Like, you know, and that might be an oversimplified way of putting it, but it's not, you're not nuts. That's that really, the way you describe it. Like,
it's not crazy. And don't get me wrong, I love Elon. I have a Tesla. I love everything Elon does. I think he's cool. I think he's funny. I think that's the way, if you're a billionaire, that's the way you should be versus, you know, fucking Bill Gates. But,
yeah, he's the worst, man.
You know, yeah, I love Elon. I think he's cool.
What do you think Gates' deal is?
I don't fucking know. I think he's a fucking nerd loser who didn't get any pussy. No, I don't know. I mean,
Jeff got him some.
Jeff did, yeah,
Jeff
man. He
got
found the roids and
he got him some
a yacht.
Rather young blood, unfortunately.
But yeah,
appears.
Yeah. He Gates is a weirdo. I don't know. I don't know enough about him to really talk about it, but you know, just to say that he was hanging out with Epstein and what he's doing with trying to buy up all the farm. Apparently he's buying up more farmland in the US than anybody right now because he wants to create fake meat or something.
What's the deal?
He's all about veganism, and he's like trying to get rid of. I mean, I understand getting rid of factory farming. Obviously, that's fucking shitty.
Horrible.
That should be horrible. That should be eliminated.
People that haven't looked at that should. It's so fucking bad.
But what he's doing, I think he invested in the Beyond Meat stuff, and he's trying to simplify or consolidate all of the food processing into one thing. He's basically trying to be the fucking, I don't know, the one-stop shop for all processed food in America. But I'm not 100% sure on that. That's alleged.
I mean, he owns, I forget what the exact percentage is, but it's at least 1% of the farmland.
That's it?
At this point. Oh. I mean, that's a lot.
Okay.
He owns one out of, imagine if one person owns 1 out of 100 farm fields.
Yeah, true.
Right? Like when you get over the bridge in Bumblefuck, New Jersey.
Yeah.
How many fucking farm fields did you count?
Yeah.
Past 100 right there.
Yeah,
he owns one of them. Right? Like now
it's
extrapolate that. He's just like, you're right. He's a total nerd. I think that's fairly obvious, but his body language at everything is like, if I'm the 12-person jury, I mean, am I even listening to the witness on the stand? I'm looking at him going, that motherfucker is guilty as fuck. Mm-hmm. And look, people said the same thing about Amanda Knox. You know, some people just unfortunately have that. But like when you're that powerful and you go out of your way to do things in public and talk to people and do interviews with places that are paid off by X, Y, and Z. It's like, which one is it, man?
Yeah, I don't know about him. I haven't thought much about that guy other than, what I've seen or what I've heard. But yeah, weird. Billionaires.
Steve never liked him either. That always...
Steve Jobs?
Yeah, he didn't... They had taught... Bill was in his kitchen towards the end of his life having a talk and making peace and all that.
Really?
Yeah. But I don't really... And this is just my theory. I don't know. But if I know anything about Steve Jobs based on what other people who knew him have described him, I don't believe for a second that he ever had even after he may have had peace and been like, I'm gonna die, I can't really control anything, I wish you well. Like, I could believe that, but I don't think he had a high opinion of Bill. And I do wonder, because I think everyone unfortunately is subject to environmental changes that can go bad, and I don't think Steve is any exception to that, especially because he had a lot of flaws himself, by the way. But I do wonder how he would have handled our world over the last decade. Like, especially with his invention, too, what he would have thought of that. I don't think his intention was for society to be addictively brainwashed by something. Whereas, and I don't know, it's just a vibe I get. When I listen to Bill speak in general about things, I feel like it's the opposite.
Bro, have you seen that new fucking Apple commercial?
No.
You have to fucking play it. Is
Yeah,
there a way
yeah.
we can both like watch it and comment on it?
Fuck yeah.
Bro,
I put it in the course.
pull up the new Apple. I think it's the privacy commercial where it shows like an auction. You haven't seen that one?
Someone put a meme out of this.
Dude, it is good. It is a good fucking commercial. Solid, strong move.
2 days ago?
Strong move.
Came out 2 days ago?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, hold on. This is a brand new machine here I'm playing with.
That fancy new
Decorate it,
M1
yeah.
Max Pro.
Yeah, baby. Can't afford it, but need it.
But yeah, it like shows like an auction and people are auctioning off this fucking girl's DMs, her shopping, browsing history and all this stuff. It's fucking genius. Oh yeah.
Is this it?
I don't know, I can't see it.
It's over there.
Yep, this is it.
They did a little play on Godfather
The next
music there.
sale
Let's
is a
stop before
digital
they drop.
treasure trove charming Ellie's private data.
What?
Lot number one, her emails. The one she's opened and read, wonderfully personal. Let's start at 240, 260, 280. Sold. Lot number two, Ellie's drugstore purchases. Voila! Priceless data. Do I hear 480? 500. Sold. Her location data. It's not creepy, it's commerce. Do I hear 600? 620? 640? 660? Sold.
Nana?
All her contacts, even sweet Nana. Sold at 740. Her recent transactions. Her browsing history. Her late-night texting habit. Sold. And now the one you've all been waiting for, and I can promise you won't be disappointed.
How fucking solid is that?
They did a great job with that.
They really hit a nerve there, didn't they?
I like to call them... can you say this anymore? I apologize if this is like whatever, but I like to call them a dwarf among midgets. They are the best on
dwarf
privacy.
among midgets.
That's from...
What does that mean? The tallest midget?
Yeah, no, it means... You ever seen... It was a Family Guy cutaway. That's where I saw it.
Okay.
It was like, you're like a dwarf among midgets, and it cuts to a guy in a cereal box, and they go, John, can you reach that? Why, yes, I can. You just said. So I always use that, but like, Apple is the best
They are.
statistically of all the companies on privacy.
That solidifies it right there.
Oh yeah, an ad.
That was a great fucking ad.
They want to convince you of that, but like
They have the best ads.
They do still have some problems, but like, you know, I do feel like we have to play, unfortunately, lowest common denominator with stuff because it's like they're the dwarf among the midget. They still utilize all our data. They still I'm gonna get myself in trouble if I try to go like fully into details. But they still basically like package our data and send it to other people and allow it to be used. I don't. Justin Baker was in here and was talking about it. I think like episode 57.
Who's he?
He's the CTO of SOAR. They are a volumetric capture company. They do holograms and.
Oh, you told me about this earlier.
Yeah, they have like the fastest compression algorithm in the world. He's amazing. Like he's a galaxy brain, and he knows. He also is very aware of the reality. Like he's not someone who lives in Silicon Valley and sits there and drinks the Kool-Aid of everything. He's like, well, no, this is a problem. That's a problem.
What are the holograms used for?
Well, it's so new that
like Tupac dancing at Coachella.
No, that was fake. That was fake. So they did a 2D play on the eyes. That was in 2012. I didn't know this, but when I had Anthony on, the founder of that company, he talked about that. He was like, no, I'm very aware of exactly what happened there. They did a play on the eyes that made it appear a hologram. And I can't remember if he said that the people there could tell it wasn't, like the people who were actually in attendance. But someone could tell it wasn't, and like he knows the guys who did that. But the amount of data that's required to capture like this right now,
like 3D,
is obscene. It doesn't, believe it or not, it doesn't take expensive cameras.
Well, that doesn't mean it's not a hologram, though. I mean, technically, a hologram, that's what it is. A play on the eyes, right?
No,
it's just lighting and
no. Well, no. Well, I explained that wrong. I'm sorry. I'm saying like it was a play on the eyes that made a 2D object appear that it had volume to it, but it didn't. Like if you had been standing next, like he said, what he did say is Snoop Dogg, who was on the stage, knew. He knew that was not a hologram. He was standing right next to.
From the audience perspective, it looked 3D.
Yes, exactly.
Well, let me ask you this: if something looks 3D, how do you know it's not really 3D? And is it not 3D? If something looks 3D to you, isn't it 3D?
If you're in person, you will know it's not. Then that's the idea. I can't remember if the audience knew, but Snoop knew because Snoop was next to him. So he's standing right next to him. So if you're in person, you know. And we're going to be at a point where you can really tell based on how the object interacts with the environment on an image on tech, like, on mobile or something like that. But, Baker was running through some of that with me. I can't remember all the details. I'll have to pull that up. But Apple's done some good things. Like one thing you should talk with Jim about, because I was unaware of this until he brought it up on a podcast, but not number 100. The time before that, when he was in here, I found out that he was one of the agents leading the San Bernardino iPhone investigation into the terrorist out there. So in 2015, when that guy killed like 13 people and then killed himself, he had an iPhone. And Jim, good man, moral man, loves America, longtime Army Ranger, FBI agent. He wanted the fucking iPhone unlocked. His job, save American lives, right? I'm a good guy. Give me the fucking iPhone, Tim.
Right.
And Tim Cook was like, no, I'm with you. I know there's got to be information on that iPhone. I want to give it to you. But if I give it to you, it's a slippery slope. Because then who do I give the next iPhone up of? Whose privacy do it? This is a bad terrorist. We can agree on that. But who do you convince me to agree on it next?
Yeah.
Someone not as bad.
Yeah.
And like I always tell Jim, I'm like, Jim, the problem is if I just had to give you that power, I'd give it to you all day. I know you're not going to do anything.
Right.
But I'm like, the problem is if I give you that power, not only do I give every other person at the FBI that power, and therefore the government.
Exactly.
Everyone who comes after you.
Right.
Is everyone you ever worked with a good guy? And he's like, no. I said, okay. Well, there you go. Right. Same argument with Andy, by the way. Same argument with Andy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it becomes something something completely different when there's are we really in a democracy when you basically have corporations running the country? Because corporations they lobby and they get these people in power, and then they make their decisions based on what these corporations are paying them to do. Or these laws these corporations are basically putting it. That's another thing, like going back to the fucking documentary I talked about a million times, but they talk about like mass democracy has evolved into what it is today based on money, strictly on. So now it's not a democracy. We're run by all these corporations that have quote unquote politicians or government in their pocket. And and this even goes back like I think it's a good idea. I think it would be great if Elon bought Twitter, but isn't Elon super beholden to the government? Like, doesn't he launch military? Isn't he super reliant on launching military satellites into orbit? And isn't Tesla super reliant on federal grants? So
The word completely is strong, so I won't use it, but it's heavy.
yeah,
Heavy.
yeah,
It's a great point you bring up.
yeah. I mean, he's not rich by accident. I mean, he
No.
saw a huge opportunity there to make a lot of money with SpaceX after they ended the shuttle program. And
He's also, Saudi aside, we know that there's richer people in Saudi who we don't know what they're really worth. But
Yeah.
if you don't include Saudi Arabia and like the UAE, he's not, among like the rankings, he's not really the richest man in the world.
no,
Because so, like an overwhelming amount of it is on paper.
right, it's all stocks. Yeah,
Right? Like I knew when I worked at Bank of America, I did not have access to any of this. This was not through Bank of America employees telling me this. I found this out from outside the bank. He had, and this is now 3 years ago maybe when I found this out, he had 3 rolling lines of credit to pay for his lifestyle, which his lifestyle is his business, right? So it was in the ballpark of 500 million. It was, I believe it was
line of credit.
Yeah, Bank of America, UBS, and maybe there was one other. I think it was, I could be
Yeah.
wrong on the names. But like I told people, I'm like, that's wild. Because like you hear $500 million. Oh, that's a fucked up. Not for that guy. Think about all the shit he does. Think about all the shit, like all the you had on the guy who tracks his jets. All the times he charters jets, pays for it, like outside the business and stuff, you know, or like has to put money through the business to pay for it, or even beyond. Let's assume all that's paid for from the business. His whole life is being in the middle of crazy situations. His security team has to be insane. The people he has to pay around him to get insulation from basic shit. So like, you know, he's taking lines of credit. I'm not saying like people wouldn't take easy money on that. Like Bezos may very well do the same thing, but the connotation was when you look at his assets, so much of it is tied up into stock that he hasn't traded. And like, look at how he's buying Twitter. I haven't looked at the full breakdown, but a lot of it was based on like levered or not levered. It was based on promise like Tesla stock.
I heard he was selling SpaceX stock or promising space stocks in SpaceX.
Maybe I have to look at
That's
it.
how a lot of these guys live, though. Like you think that they're not just living off their bank accounts. They're fucking they finance everything in their lives. Their car payments and their fucking the coffee they buy from McDonald's on. It's all credit. Everything is all bank loans and credit cards and lines of credit from banks. Like their assets, they leverage their assets to pay for their lifestyles.
If you are a smart guy.
That's how you should do it.
And you absolutely, but let me paint this scenario. If you're a smart guy and you know you're a more aggressive investor, you're very rich, and not even in the investment business, in another business, but with your money, you're an aggressive investor. So if you're 50 years old, if you are looking to search the web privately and not have all these websites track you when you leave, check out my friends over at Privado VPN. Privado VPN is the VPN company that gives you full privacy while losing you no speed, and it allows you to use it on up to 10 different devices at one time. It's a great benefit to have. So if you use the link in my description, you will go to my landing page with the site, and you'll see a plan there for $4.99 a month. It's the same one I use, so check it out. You're going to love it. And you're allocated to 95% stocks, which is not recommended for the average human psychology, but you're smart. You know you make 40% on a good year. When the market shits the bed, you lose 60%. But if you made 40% for 7 years in a row, like you live with it and it'll recover overall if you're diversified, right? If you know that you're not going to sell in that situation and panic like a bitch, wouldn't you agree that taking a loan to be able to keep your money in stocks rather than cash to pay for something means you're going to get richer?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the quote, "It takes money to make money," I didn't know that in college. I knew the quote, but like I didn't understand how that worked. I learned it in my career because I would see these guys call up and basically get free money. I'll never forget one. There was one dude, not my client, someone else's client, worth billionaire, right? he was building. He has a public company, so he's got a lot of stock tied up in that. He's got plenty of stuff like tied up in a lot of places that he could pull out. Some, not necessarily his company, but other stuff, no problem. But he goes to build a house in a very, very wealthy sector of America, we'll call it. And
The Hamptons.
you're good. You're very good. Yeah, that was it. So that could mean a lot of things. But he goes to build a house in the Hamptons, and we'll say it was in the ballpark of he wanted to do a knockdown and a rebuild. So his ballpark full project was like 35, 40 million. Yeah, another day at the office for him. So it was like half and half. It worked out that way somehow, I think, where it was like the full knockdown, including redoing the land itself and re-dredging shit, was like roughly half of the full price, and that building the house was the other half. Something like that. Or buying the house was half, and then I forget. But it was like half and half. And he goes, all right, I'm going to pay for the first one in cash because why not? But the second part, he said to his advisor, he's like, I got a stock portfolio. Can you give me a loan on that? And the guy's like, yeah, loans are at like 2% right now.
Yeah, free money.
So for a year, he paid 2% divided by 12 a month. No principal. He was handed a $15, $20 million check. Paid for everything. House got built. And then one day he's like, fuck it. Hands in the money. Stocks went up during that whole time, and the loan was dead.
Isn't that amazing?
I was like, that's how it happens. Mm-hmm. You need money to make money.
Right. How crazy is that? It's so funny how, even like a lot of people that have a ton of fucking money are dumb when they just buy this massive house or this fucking expensive car. Like, oh yeah, I paid cash for it. Like, a lot of people learn once they make a lot of money and lose a lot that no, you should have just fucking taken a loan out on that house or taken a mortgage out on that house when you can basically get the money for free.
Yes.
You're borrowing it for virtually free, for nothing, for the interest payment, for 1-2% on your home loan, which you could have gotten a couple years ago, or on a car loan or whatever. But
no, and that's it. Like you and I were talking about how I hate debt earlier, right before the podcast. That's because I'm poor.
Yeah,
I don't like owing anyone anything.
Right.
I like to know that my balance sheet is just what I'm looking at. So I don't do debt. I pay something on my credit card. I pay it immediately. Like I pay it at the store. I come home, boop, 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 paid.
Yeah.
When I have money, damn right I'm gonna lever like being able to take advantage of low rates and be able to make money on cash in the interim that is not a part of my rainy day fund. Right? When you don't have money, everything's a rainy day fund.
Right.
But like you do have, even if you're someone who doesn't like that, which I inherently don't, you have to recognize that, because when you get to that layer where it's like, oh, I can make 7% against 2 or 9% against 3, whatever it is, you have a spread now. I mean, why the fuck do you think loan sharks are so successful?
Exactly.
There was some other guy who was like, it was legal. It was legal. He wasn't connected or anything, perfectly legit guy, but he would like take out money on his stock portfolio, pay 2%, and then loan it out on the street to guys who couldn't get loans for like 15.
Wow.
He's just making us perfectly legal.
Yeah.
All done through the bank, everything.
Yeah, it's amazing to me how some people can just make money. Well, I just lost my headphones.
Take this right here. See this thing? Go like that. You see the middle?
Yeah.
Is it back?
Audio. Oh yeah, I'm back.
Yeah. Matt Cox was driving him nuts.
Was it really?
He had a panic attack.
Did he really?
He was like mid talk. I actually took it out because he was like playing with it for like 2 minutes, and
was he really?
It flew. It like was. No one would notice it was there.
He is high maintenance.
He's like exactly. He was like halfway through a point. He's like, so then I'm going in to get my social. And dude, I gotta tell you, I fucking hate this thing.
I
fucking listen. This is fucking terrible. I don't know what you need to fix this. And I'm like, oh, you got to put it right there. It's like, I'm sorry. I'm real high maintenance.
Oh my god, man.
Fucking dying. But anyway,
so
sorry.
funny. No, that's another funny. He's a I love that guy. He's so funny. I mean, that's another thing. He'll I think everything that motivated him to do everything that he did was his height. You know?
Yes.
It's
amazing.
His father. Have I talked to you about maybe I asked this to Matt Cox.
Shameless plug for you, by the way.
Huh.
People should go to YouTube right now and search Koncrete Matt Cox. How many podcasts have you had him on?
Probably 12, roughly 10 or 12, maybe.
And you have him on about all different shit because he's a writer too.
Yeah, all of his. I've had I've had him on to talk about pretty much every one of his books that he's ever done.
Every episode that I haven't listened to all of them for sure. I've probably listened to like 4, something like that. They're phenomenal. So people should check those out. But go ahead.
No, what was I saying? Some of the most like murderous or insane people in American culture, or not even just American culture, just in the history of the world, have been short people.
Yes. Like
Charlie Manson.
Yep.
Who was the guy, the French invader?
Napoleon. 5'2", 5'3".
Napoleon.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many of them that are all short. And I asked this to Matt, and he went on this tirade for like 30 minutes on why it is and how that basically, you know, that was a big part of what motivated him. And you know, he's looked into getting fucking leg extension surgery. He's actually, like, we went to the website on my podcast, and he's like, yep, I've been to this website. I know everything about this website. I know everything about this doctor. These butchers are fucking cutting into people's femurs and extending them by like 2 inches.
Bro, he's yoked. I don't
Matt?
know what his
Oh,
deal
yeah,
is.
he's super jacked. He's
jacked.
He's like SpongeBob.
He's a good-looking dude.
He's like SpongeBob when he has the giant arms and he's walking around in his arms.
I don't know what, like, he's short, but like, he made up for it. Like, he's got to chill.
Yeah.
He's got to relax.
Yeah, he does have to
He's got gray hair. Like, he paid for that. He's got the whole bit.
Yeah. His hair is great. And he said he paid $8,000 for that hairline.
That's it?
Phenomenal hairline. $8,000, I think. Yeah.
In like 04, 05, but still.
And it's fucking kept its shape even after prison.
Bro, he's got gray hair.
Phenomenal hair.
And he's like 50, 54, something like that?
Yeah, he's in his mid-50s, I think.
Bro, I had to check that after. I'm like, shit. Like, you're doing all right, man. Like, good job. Because you're supposed to, like, age, like, fucking crazy in prison. But
he's one of
did
the.
All right.
He's got something. There's something about him. He took that opportunity. The first time he came on my podcast, his podcast was like the most viral podcast I've ever done because he got like, that thing hit 1 million views in like the first 2 weeks. I think I posted it.
Wow.
And it just went nuclear. But he took that opportunity and fucking ran with it like no other. He's turned that into so many opportunities for himself. He was in, like 3 months later, he had these fucking rich dudes flying into Puerto Rico to talk to their company. Like, they were paying him to fly.
Yeah, he's smart, man.
To talk to people. Then he got this he became like a brand ambassador for Home Title Lock. He got paid to talk to all kinds of companies, be on so many different podcasts. And I mean, he's built his own YouTube channel. He's got like 50,000 subscribers. He's making a living off YouTube now. Yeah. And dude, kudos to him.
More than that too.
He's really taken that opportunity and ran with it.
Look, he capitalized on it, but like as a human being, like I'm proud of that guy too, because he was like a textbook scumbag, right? Like, just stole people's identities and everything, and it was all based out of pride, as he said, pride type things, which had to do with his height, had to do with his dad, and you know, that whole relationship there. But like, he is one of the most self-aware people I have ever met in my life. He will say things, and you've been with him a lot more than me, so I'm sure you can think of a lot more examples than I can, but forget on camera. He said a lot of things on camera that it's like, you'd be like, damn, you're saying that out loud? Like, he doesn't care. He'll tell you, this is what's going on up here, I'm telling you. Like, like the things that he would have held in when he was a criminal, like he says now to hold himself to it in a way. But then even off camera, like, he talked to me about threshold on the podcast, and then we talked about that afterwards, like criminal threshold. And he's like, my criminal threshold is, I mean, unless I'm wrong about you, it's significantly lower than yours. Meaning, I am willing to everyone is capable of a crime at some point. If a mother can't feed her kid and they're on the back road, or back corner, like, she's going to steal bread to feed the kid, right? Like, everyone's capable of it, as he explained it. But he's like, my threshold is much lower because I have something to prove, right? And so when I got out of prison, even after all that, and actually having to reflect on what I did and understand, like, who I hurt and all that, like, it doesn't mean my threshold changed. So I have, in everything I do, I have to be aware of that so that I don't do that again. Or not just that, like something to make money that's not legit.
Right.
And I'm like, Like, he was talking about conversations with his PO, and I was like, damn. I'll bet she liked you a lot. Like, I'll bet she was like, wow, no one ever says this to me. Because he was like, he's so legit about it. And then he burned the boats. He said, well, how can I make sure I never steal identities again? Well, let me put my face everywhere.
Yeah.
And people know that this is my I'll never be able to do it again.
Right.
And so he set up a bar for himself. Like, no, Matt, you're not allowed to ever do that again, even if times got really bad. And it's like,
burn the bridge.
Exactly. I was like, I said to him before I dropped him off at the airport, I was like, I've never heard someone talk like that before, but good for you.
Yeah.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah, I'm super proud of him, man. He really fucking made something of that opportunity.
Nice guy too.
Smart, super smart motherfucker.
Very smart. That's the sad thing. He would have been great at anything.
Yeah.
He would have been great at anything.
Yep.
Like, he could have gone out to Silicon Valley and started a tech company. No doubt about it. Like, just a galaxy brain type guy. But unbelievable storyteller.
He is an unbelievable storyteller. Super articulate, super charismatic, super charming. I gotta piss.
All right.
I'll be right back.
We'll be right back. Hey, guys. Thanks for checking out the podcast with Danny here on YouTube. For part 3, the final part, hit the link in the description or in the pinned comment below.